Hi, welcome to Box on the Box and Celluloid. I'm over Box. So today I'm going to do something called a random review. Now I've made a few more of these. It's just picking an album that I like and fancy reviewing. Some of you may use my other channel, Overbox Guitar Tuition, where I leave my classic album inspections. If you've not seen any of those, they're in a playlist on my Box channel. But it's just a way to kind of talk about an album I missed out from my classic album inspections, or just what I fancy doing. But I thought I'd look at Black Sabbath's 7-star album, and more importantly what it's called, Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. So basically the genesis of this album was that Sabbath had basically kind of imploded after the Ian Gillan album Born Again. They tried getting a singer in called David Donato. Some of you may remember there was actually a big photo spread of them with David Donato in Kerrang, and then it just all went quiet, and then he ended up in a band with Mark St. John of Kiss called White Tiger. Tony Iommi was working on a solo album, had a solo deal with Vertigo Phonogram, and of course the record label, and they always do this, it's like, look, you've got to call it Black Sabbath. This is what happened to Van Halen. They wanted to do the band as a different name with Sammy Hagar, and it's like, no, you should call it Van Halen. The same thing happened with Black Sabbath back in the Dio era. Oh, let's call the band, I think they were going to call it Heaven and Hell or something. It's like, no, you'll have to call it Black Sabbath. So when fans kind of complain, oh, it's not the proper thing, it's like, well, you know, it's the music business, and there's obviously there's a massive cultural capital and monetary capital in the Black Sabbath name. So what happens on this album is recorded in Los Angeles. It's kind of more hard rock. I'm just looking at it, it's 4 minutes and 28 seconds long. It was released January 1986, so, you know, came right out at the start of that era. Sort of convoluted with the people who ended up playing on it as guests, but you got Tony Iommi on guitar, Glenn Hughes on vocals, so this is the kind of biggie. Dave Spitz on guitar, bass guitar, who's a relative of Dan Spitz of Anthrax, I believe. Eric Singer on drums, who we know went on to do the excellent Badlands, of course, Kiss. And Jeff Nichols on keyboards. Now, Jeff Nichols had been a collaborator of Iommi's going back to the Heaven and Hell era, I think, and finally became a kind of full band member. Apparently, he totally hero-shipped Tony Iommi. He used to dress the same in a leather jacket. Awesome. So I see Gordon Coakley bass guitar, No Stranger to Love as well. So this album, it didn't chart great. It made 7-8 in the US Billboard, 27 UK albums. But for some reason, my middle brother, went straight out and bought it. I don't know if he was just finding something new to listen to, because he wasn't the kind of guy who bought a lot of new albums. You know, he tended to buy back catalogue. And he kind of stopped buying new albums by bands he actually liked. I seem to remember him buying Savage Amusement by the Scorpions, but I don't remember him buying any after that. But he went out and got this album. One thing I remember about it is the vinyl was the most povey packaging. I don't know if you remember, Vertigo Phonogram had really povey cardboard on their album sleeves, so some of you may have bought Slippery and Wet, and that's, you know, really thin. And you never got inner sleeves. And they're right cheapskates, which is weird considering, you know, they did those great gatefold album covers for Lizzie and with really good artwork and Sabbath and so on. But anyway, they just had a paper inner, I think. Maybe it had a lyric sheet, I don't know, I don't think it did. But anyway, it opens with In for the Kill, and straight off the bat, this is really, really good. It's got a great drum fill, Eric Singer coming in, a really good 12/8 rhythm. So it's heavy, it's got that classic Sabbath Children of the Grave groove, but it's kind of more streamlined. It's kind of compacted into more of a contemporary metal sound, and works really well with a really good guitar solo. All the playing's excellent. Iommi's on form, and of course Glenn Hughes. So once again, Black Sabbath, in inverted commas, land themselves a fucking amazing singer. You know, start off Ozzy, who's a great vocalist personality. He's not a great singer. You won't mind that. Then they get Dio, who's like the best heavy metal singer ever. And then they get Ian Gillan, who's like the heavy rock singer who influences every fucking heavy metal singer. And then he gets the voice of rock. And Hughes sounds great. I mean, in all fairness, he's one of those guys who sounds good on anything, really. Really good opener. And then you've got the kind of big commercial sort of powered, quite heavy power ballad, No Stranger to Love. This had a really moody black and white video. It was very effective. And this is another really good track. I really enjoy this. Then you got Turn to Stone. This is another up-tempo rocker. Really good. Glenn Hughes on top form on this. Production's good by Jeff Glicksman. Drums are firing away. Iommi on form. Good hook. Then as turns up on his albums, you know, since the year Tony Iommi has been putting in little filler instrumentals. I mean, it started back in the early days of Sabbath with things like Orchid and Embryo. But by this point it gets pretty silly, after Born Again they've got Stonehenge, haven't they? And this is called Sphinx and the Guardian. So it's always a bit Egyptian theme tying with the title track. It's just some atmospheric keyboard stuff. It's probably what they used to put on his intro tape. I don't mind these kind of tracks, but, we're all guilty. I've done it myself, you kind of like, all right, I'll put on the instrumental just to fill out time. But they got the title track 7 star, so this finished the original side A. This is a kind of typical epic closer of a side of vinyl you had at the time, very much in the kind of Dio Sabbath era sound. It could almost, the riff and stuff could almost be like a Dio track actually. It's got sort of mystical lyrics, huge sounds good, it's good groove, very good track. It's 5 minutes 18, so again it's a bit long, it feels more epic, but it's not that long. So side 1 of the album's really good. Side 2 opens with Danger Zone. This is just a commercial hard rock track. I suppose if you're looking for a comparison, you'd be looking at tracks like Slipping Away by Sabbath or Walk Away. Or if you're looking at the Born Again album, something like Hotline or, Trashed or something like that. Again, it's a good track. It's not as good as what's gone before, but it's solid. Then you've got the blues track, Heart Like a Wheel. This has got your classic, trippy boom, boom, boom. Blues Feel, 6 minutes 29 seconds. This is the longest track. Really good blues soloing by Iommi. Probably goes on a bit long, but it's a good track again, not great. Then you got Angry Heart. Really like the riff to this. Just a really good, simple, effective Iommi riff with it just breaks down to a simple chug on the verses. It's a bit of a rip off of Wishing Well, to be honest, with the verses by Free. But it's a good track, great vocal by Glenn Hughes, and then this kind of segues into the track In Memory, which is sort of a half-formed track. It doesn't really have a chorus, but it's just to kind of see out the album. So I'm guessing Iommi, it was a solo effort. I'm guessing he had so much material he thought would work, and that's why it's a bit shorter. So it sort of convoluted. Glenn Hughes started the live shows. He was using a lot of coke at the time. Did someone punch him in the face, a roadie or something, because he was obnoxious to him? This gave him a nosebleed. He bled down the back of his throat, and he got kind of dried blood on his vocal cords, and this caused some kind of infection, and he couldn't sing. So then they got in Ray Gillen, and Ray Gillen did the tour. So when you get the deluxe edition of this album, the disc 2 is live from the Hammy-O. And what's interesting about this is how brilliant Ray Gillen is. He sings, there's only Danger Zone, the 7th star. Off this album he sings, but he sings the Dio stuff and the Ozzy stuff, and he puts his own stamp on it. And I think I've said elsewhere about Ray Gillen, he was the one singer who could have bought in and done every era of Sabbath. And the weird thing is he's got a more classic rock voice. I mean, Dio kind of had a classic rock voice back in Elf days, but then he kind of went more into the, developed in Rainbow into this power metal singing style. Obviously Ian Gillan's got a bit of bluesy stuff, but he's got those screams. So, Ray Gillan's got that amazing range, but he's got that kind of Paul Rodgers, Robert Plant thing. So, really good. So, yeah, I think I'd give this album, I think it's a 7 out of 10. Sometimes it's like an 8, but I think it's a little bit too thin on the ground. The length of it is actually very short. It could have done with another track, something really kick ass. But it's a good record, and the thing is, this myth, people like to just think it's Black Sabbath's just Ozzy. There's people who goes, I can't stand Dio, it's not Sabbath, and then Dio goes and it's like, they've done loads of crap. But in actual fact, if you're looking for the DNA of Black Sabbath, it's Tony Iommi. It's his riffs. It's the way those riffs are and the way the other musicians interact with them that gives you that Sabbath sound. So he is the one, the one person who cannot not be there. So I always accepted this as a Black Sabbath album, and obviously the carrying on after this. So what I'll do is I'll be looking at the Tony Martin era in the coming episode, and then we'll rank those Black Sabbath albums as well. So okay, see you again soon, and remember to share and subscribe.